you may be familiar with. It is one of the premier genetics research institutions in the world, located partway out on Long Island. And the DNA Learning Center was founded in the 1980s by our executive director, Dave Miklos, as the first DNA education center in the country. Since its founding in the 80s, we have gone on to develop curriculum for genetics education for middle and high school students and also college students. We do science enrichment experiences, including field trips and camps. We've opened a number of licensed DNA learning centers throughout the world. And this gives you some stats on like the numbers that we're talking about. Well, we see tens of thousands of students every year, around 1,000 in summer camps, around 200 teachers every year in our programs. In the New York City area, the first learning center here is at the top left, is the Dolan Center on Long Island in Cold Spring Harbor. More recently, we opened DNA Learning Center West, which is also on Long Island, but closer in toward the city. In 2008, we actually came to New York City and opened the Harlem Dna Lab, which has helped to reach the students of New York City. Any New York City public schools that are Title I are able to bring their students on field trips to the DNA Learning Center for free. The first field trip is free. In 2019, we opened a DNA Learning Center at Regeneron, which is, this location is located in Sleepy Hollow in Westchester. And then we've had a temporary space in Brooklyn for a couple of years now. But this spring, we're opening this very large DNA Learning Center in Brooklyn, which is why we're here to present to you tonight. So the DNA Learning Center in Brooklyn is a collaboration with the City University of New York. It's going to be, it's located in an entire floor of a building at City Tech. So this is a collaboration with CUNY with the support of the state. This floor plan gives you an idea of how large it is. So we're going to have 6 teaching labs. We'll have 2 computer classrooms to do bioinformatics instruction. There's in the middle, what you're looking at is a cafeteria. To the far right, you can see there's a very large space that's going to be a museum exhibit. And then there's various offices and prep spaces there. So our location is going to be right in downtown Brooklyn on the City Tech campus, so accessible via Brooklyn Bridge. Many of the subway lines go there, so it'll be very accessible to New York City in general. These are some pictures. Here's one of the lab classrooms, what it looks like. One of the computer classrooms. It's a lunchroom. So very large, very modern facility that will allow us to do lots of great stuff. And interestingly, we're actually coming home to Brooklyn in the sense that Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory was founded as the biological laboratory of the Brooklyn Institute of Arts and Sciences. As we come back to Brooklyn, we are going to be rejoining this group of institutions in Brooklyn along Flatbush Avenue, including the Brooklyn Museum, Brooklyn Children's Museum, Brooklyn Botanic Garden, and Brooklyn Academy of Music. So we're very excited to come to the community. To give you a little bit more idea of some of the things we do, one of our primary activities is school field trips. So classes come to us at the Learning Center, thousands and thousands every year. I already mentioned that in New York City, the Title I schools receive the first field trip for free. these are some of our most popular field trips, middle school level, glowing genes, DNA extractions, other one, mystery of Anastasia. Those are all quite popular. High school, we do a lot of bacterial transformations where you make the bacteria glow with green fluorescent protein. Various kinds of DNA restriction analysis, which is part of the living environment curriculum, PCR-based labs for the higher levels with the high school kids. So we have a number of labs where students can look at their own DNA, which is very fun for them. Recently, during COVID, we've been doing a lot of virtual field trips. We've also been bringing kits directly to students at their schools and at their homes so that they can still do labs safely and get some interaction during the pandemic. Another major program that we have is the Partner School program. This is actually a program that I manage, and this is a program where schools can they pay a membership fee, and we provide customized instruction for the schools. So this tends to be the private schools that have partnerships with us. And I mention it because even though this is a paid program, if you know of schools that you think would be good candidates for this kind of activity allows us to have the staff to support everything else that we do, which involves more free programming for others. So we provide essentially what they want. So we'll customize the instruction from scratch to make it exactly tailored to what the schools need, and we bring the instruction into the schools. So Allison's going to start to talk here about our barcoding programs.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah. If you want to just keep sharing in advance when I finish talking about the slide. So we have a couple of student research programs. They're both under this umbrella of Urban Barcode. We have the Urban Barcode Project, where we train teachers who then mentor their students to do DNA barcoding research as either an in-class or extracurricular activity. And we also have the Urban Barcode Research Program, where we train students and then pair them with scientists at institutions throughout New York City. So they get mentored by an active scientist throughout the year. And then the next couple of slides are all about our summer camps, because that's what we're really pushing right now. And as Jenny said, you know, we're really just looking to connect with members of the New York City community more broadly as we expand our footprint here in the city. So we are planning a full schedule of in-person camps at our new location beginning on June 28th. We will continue to offer virtual camps because we recognize that not everyone is ready or able to come back in person just yet. And it allows us to reach people in other parts of the country as well. Our camps are generally 1 week long, and they're for students entering grades 6 through 12. We have scholarships available. The scholarship applications are accepted on a rolling basis, as are just enrollments. And so on the next slide, I think, is some information about our COVID safety net. This will be adjusted as new guidance comes out from the CDC and from the state and the city. But we currently have students coming into the Dolan DNA Learning Center out in Cold Spring Harbor on Saturdays. So we have a very small number of students in the building at a time, masking, physical distancing, everything like that. And what you can maybe see a little bit in the picture there is that our educator has a camera up front so that she can project on the smart board what she's doing and make it easier for the students to see without having to move around a lot. So we're planning to follow whatever guidelines exist, of course, at the point where it's June 28th, and hopefully be able to have some more students in the building and, of course, still masked and distanced a little bit and sanitizing everything. So the remaining pictures are from pre-pandemic times, so no masks and no distancing here. These are all from 2019 or earlier, just to give you a sense of the progression of courses that we have for summer camps. This is our entry-level camp. It's called Fun with DNA. It's for students entering grades 6 through 7. They do all sorts of models of cells, DNA, RNA. They extract DNA. this camp is followed. Of course, students can enter in at any point, but there is a progression. The next camp is World of Enzymes, and they do all sorts of fun activities with enzymes that can be found around the home and in the lab. That camp is followed by Green Genes, which is one of my favorites that we're not able to do virtually. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to be in person again, at least for some number of students, because at the end of this camp, students use fluorescent bacteria to do this agar art and paint beautiful bacteria pictures, which is difficult to do remotely. And then as the students get a little older, we have a forensic science camp called Forensic Detectives, which is very popular. We also have a very classic molecular genetics, molecular biology camp called DNA Science. This covers a lot of kind of AP biology type labs, very, very classic techniques. We have a DNA barcoding camp as well as our DNA barcoding programs. We do a lot of DNA barcoding at the DNA Learning Center. We have a biocoding camp because we recognize that biology is not just lab work, it's also coding and data science and computational work. And then I think our last camp, yes, is genome science. So this camp is a really in-depth look at the human genome as well as the genome of some other organisms. And so that's kind of our capstone course. So I think the next slide just has like our website and information. We can also put this in the chat. And as Jenny said, we're trying to connect with folks and find ways to get this information out there so we can serve as many students as possible. So thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Allison and Jennifer. I really appreciate it. Fascinating, wonderful, and unique program. I was thinking as you were talking about the programs you have with the schools. Have you reached out to the public schools in our community district? Would you like us to connect you with them? It's a really unique program. I'm sure a lot of them would be really interested in hearing about.
Yeah, so communication we've been doing with schools has partly been through schools we already know, and also through the DOE we've had some contact, but we would appreciate any other connections because sometimes, you know, the first email doesn't make it to someone who reads it, or we don't have the right contact information. So absolutely, that would be great.
Okay, great. Well, the office can connect you with all of our schools downtown, and then as far as the outreach for the summer program, you know, we could do a blast on that for sure, but maybe forward something to them as well. I know that my girls' schools have been sending a lot of things out for summer programs right now, and so, you know, as you're contacting them to talk about the programs you offer in the school, that would be a great time to say, would you like to send this out to your student body and have them help you with that circulation? I get like 3 a day, but there's nothing like this program. It's very unique and really interesting. So I think that would be a great start, I would think. And also just, you know, I like the fact that you're offering sort of financial aid. I think that's always a barrier for a lot of these kids with these summer programs. So I think that's fantastic as well. And yeah, does anybody have any questions?
No, I would love the information. Also, I'll send to. Do you, Allison? Do you have a relationship with Nest? Because this is the type of program that the school really jumps on. And I've looked through all emails and I haven't seen anything about your program.
No, as far as I'm aware, we don't have any pre-existing relationships. So it would be great if we can send some information along.
Yeah, if you can send me some information. It's a K through 12 school, and this is exactly the type of program that they go for. So I'd love to get that information.
For sure.
Yeah, this is Wendy. My oldest daughter, Kendall, actually attended your week-long summer camp when she was, I think, a freshman in high school. She's now in college, and it was great. And I actually really tracked you down. It was that program in Harlem that you had, and I was looking for a summer program in science, and it was not easy to find. And I'm pretty diligent, so. You know, I think that in terms of like general, there's a lot of search engines for summer internships in New York City. Make sure you're on those. And then I know like Mary Poppins, or no, Mommy Poppins. That's a blog that does a lot of summer camps downtown. And then of course back to the schools, all the specialized high schools, even Bronx Science. So you don't think kids would go out to Brooklyn. They live all over the city, including, you know, downtown here. So that's where my daughter was attending school at Bronx Science. So all of the specialized high schools, especially the science-based ones, would really love that. And I can think of, you know, the in terms of your the field trips. I think even the schools that would pay, I think some of them would pay. I think the PTAs would pay. So, you know, don't shy away just because they're not Title I, because down in Community Board 1, we don't have a lot of Title I schools. But thank you. I think what you're doing in this new facility in Brooklyn sounds amazing.
Thanks so much for all of that information. We just recently connected with Mommy Poppins to get into their listing, as well as some other listings in Brooklyn. So that's good to hear, though, that's also recommended. We definitely have talked to some of the specialized schools, and we will keep doing that and keep looking for. We haven't historically done a lot of pushing of our summer programs because we've had such a small amount of space there in the Harlem Dna Lab, and now we have all this other space. But really appreciate the feedback. Thanks.
Right, and I remember it being, even though it was a paid program, it was very reasonable. Thanks.
Anybody else have questions? All right, thank you both so much.
Actually, sorry. This is Rosa. I was wondering if you actually knew about the schools that are located in the Murray Bertram building, because I believe that they are Title I. Actually, it's the Urban Assembly, and they do have a school for emergency management. And I don't know. It seems like maybe it would be a good fit. I'll reach out to somebody there and maybe pass along your information.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, and to
Connect you. We'll
clarify about the school. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say to clarify about the schools, like we're actually interested in reaching all the schools, not just the Title I schools. It's just that we have funds available for Title I schools to come for free, and we will gladly accept the paid field trips and paid summer camps as well. And you know, for all of you, if you're interested in helping us get the word out, you know, we kind of have a Robin Hood sort of model where we will take the money from the private schools and the schools that can pay for field trips, and that helps support a large enough staff that we can do a lot of the other free programming, including the barcoding programs. The barcoding research programs are free.
Hi, did we lose the audio? This is Andrew. I can't hear anyone.
We can hear you, Andrew. Okay, go on. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
No, I just wanted to make the point that which I think I just said, which is that, you know, there's both paid programming and free programming, and that combination of having the paid programming allows us to support a staff that's large enough to, you know, create all of this programming in general. So
sure. I mean, a lot of the high schools are always looking for partners like this. I mean, there are other organizations that are paid that the PTA pays for them. I mean, it's such an important offering in addition to their regular clubs, especially if they're like unique academic things like this, because they don't have the money to have this incredibly diverse curriculum. And it's a wonderful way for the kids to have an experience with that on the school level. And so I would think a lot of schools would be really interested in partnering with you.
And taking in interns at all, you know, in terms of I could see you have a tremendous, you know, I mean, even alums, you know, my daughter's now studying health science in college because this is part of what she was interested way back when. You know, are you hiring additional people for the summer? Is it, you know, do you have an alumni base? You know, I could see that this could be a real community for you. It's a little bit like, I don't know if you've looked at the Girls Who Code model, if you know a little bit about them, because once you go through Girls of Code, you're considered a part of that forever. And they have a newsletter that they send to you all the time, and it's really wonderful. So I don't know if you've looked at that model.
I will say that we at Harlem, we've had high school interns for a long time, and we try to recruit kids from the community to fill those positions. In Brooklyn, part of our relationship with CUNY is that we are being asked to hire CUNY students as our interns. But you're right that model of having like the alumni come back as interns, that's actually some of the model they use at the main center in Dolan. Their high school interns, a lot of them are alumni of our programs.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. We'll stay in touch. We'll definitely follow up with that contact information and connect you with the schools here.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. We really
Really
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, see you soon.
Bye.
All right. Moving right along. So we have Kamau coming, but not until 7. The DOE, I'm just noticing, she didn't get back to us about coming to talk about these programs, and she just emailed them. Jen, did you get this email?
I did. Stephanie, she forwarded us an email coming from the DOE. If I can pull it up and share it onto the screen so everybody can take a look, if that's okay.
That's great. Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
One moment.
So some of you may have seen some of these come around from your school. SYEP is here and some other things. But there was some additional information that could be of interest that we're also going to circulate, especially the one, again, on some mental health support for kids and IEP support over the summer, which is something new and different and good. So as soon as this loads up, you guys can have a look at it. We'll circulate it as well after the meeting, but in the essence of time, we will just look at it here. And Jen, if you can take us to the top and then just slowly roll down so that people can sort of see. Can you make the screen a little bit bigger?
I will. So everybody can see my screen, right? Or
Half of it.
okay. Oops. Some private information.
There we go.
I think that's fine. Okay.
Yeah, great.
I'll just whenever. Actually, Trisha, you can go ahead and tell me whenever you want me to go down and.
If you could just fill the page with the width of this page so the type is visible for everybody, Jen, I think that would help a lot. And then if you could just scroll down the mail just slowly, people can get a feeling for what's there, and ask questions. I mean, for the sake of the meeting, I'd love for them to see enough where it could generate some questions we can send back. And then, you know, obviously we'll circle the whole email to you all afterwards.
Is this better? Is it better zoomed in?
It is. And if you could just roll, yes, that's great. We're obviously going to get clarification on all of these. I think she's going to come in May to talk more about them, but just so you guys can see what's coming up.
Will they
Okay,
have, sorry, will they have maybe it's later on. Do you know if they're going to have an equivalent for high schoolers?
they are.
Okay.
So Tricia, I don't know if I'm not reading close enough, but do we know anything about how many spots there are or?
We don't. We have, this is obviously very general. I have a very long list of questions for her. We don't know how many spots. We don't know what programming for exactly what age groups. We do know that the younger kids will have a 5-day-a-week program for the 7 weeks. We do know that they'll provide critical childcare services for families that have to return to work. We do know that students with IEPs will have the ability for it to go a 5-day program as well. Middle school looks like it's 4 days a week for 6 weeks, and high school is a 5-week program tailored to their needs. High school students will have the opportunity to engage at the SYEP program, which you probably have all heard about, which is the employment program they run, and participate in the PSAL. I have no details on that, but they plan on running some sort of summer PSAL. They're going to be starting outreach to the students in the coming weeks about that. So it'll probably come via your schools for high school. So, you know, obviously what's going to be critical here is how many seats and how many spaces are available. It's great that it's free. I just, you know, don't know about how plentiful the resources actually are going to be. So that'll be a big question that we will have. Let's see what else I can say about it. This literally came in while we were meeting, so I'm just catching it as you're catching it. Oh, classrooms. So they are going to children that have failed their classes. This was a question we had, as you recall, someone had a question last month or the month before. It looks like there will be academic support for kids to retake classes, to catch up academically, which I think is, you know, obviously really needed. There's no details on that yet in terms of when that will be happening. But it talks about providing a bridge to next year. It looks like it's going to be, it sounds like it's in person, but they're not committing to that. But they say they allow students to reconnect with one another and their schools, provide avenues for recreation, exploration, and fun. See what else. It'll be in all boroughs. Field trips, academic, arts activities, outdoor recreation. And students in grades 9 to 12 who have a course in progress or who need to retake a course will participate in academic instruction from July 6th through August 13th. There it is. High school students will also have the opportunity to accelerate learning and access social, emotional supports and arts programming. And then they'll also have the opportunity to participate in SYEP if they want to work.
Can you have, sorry, Trish, can you have on the screen what you're reading so we can all read it, or?
It's on my phone, Jeff.
Oh, sorry.
It should be what Jen is showing us, but it looks like it's different.
Yeah.
Jen,
Yeah.
Mike,
Yeah.
you seem like you're on this email, but you've got something different on the screen.
Yeah, I can pull that up as well, the email. I have that as well here. I can go ahead.
I think that would be helpful for them to see, and then we can send it on to them. Then they go on to say, there will be remote programming available for interested families whose children are mandated for summer learning or have a 12-month IEP. Program offerings for high school students will depend on school community need and may include a mix of in-person and remote options. Consistent with years prior, schools will notify families by June if their student is required to participate in summer learning and will share additional details with families about how they can enroll. That's problematic because it's helpful to know before June.
But
so I may
you may not be able to, you may not be able to know who failed. I mean, generally speaking, this is, if it's like last year, it's about addressing kids that failed. So you won't know who failed until June.
But I think, Jeff, what I'm hearing going into all these different school meetings, what I'm understanding there at this point, there are kids that have done so badly that even they know that there's no, they know that there's no catching up. In fact, it's becoming so apparent. I was told that there are kids that they know even after a summer program, they'll still need to repeat the school year. So it seems it's like very dire in certain situations.
Yeah, I think some kids, definitely some kids know, some kids don't yet know. So I guess they're hedging, I think, to a later date to try to like buy time. But I agree with you, Tricia, it would be good for families to know, but they kind of can know based upon what Sarah's saying, like you kind of know, or hopefully are trying to find out if your kid's at risk, because you know, it's not going to be like you only failed the fourth quarter and you're all at risk. You know, it's going to be, there's been a trend.
Right. And the DOE doesn't have a great track record of notifying someone in June and starting 2 weeks later. I'm very concerned about that transition, that quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's understandable, but at the same time, it would be great for them to be reaching out to the kids early and say, this ability, these are the dates, this is how it would work, you know.
And I think they'll need to wait for the ELA and math test, because I think a lot of people are taking those tests this year just to see where the kids are at, not because of anything, just to see, you know, what's going on. Because some teachers are saying we're not failing anyone, we're passing. So I think they'll have to wait until those come out too.
Well, that's just so everyone understands what happened with that, in case you didn't know. So last year, what happened was, basically, if a kid passed my English class in 11th grade, which is historically the year kids take a reading exam for English, passing my class meant you were exempted from the exam. You got credit for, you basically didn't sit for, there was no exam, but you get credit for having taken the exam, assuming they were going to offer it again this year. In other words, it was waived. It wouldn't be like, oh, you don't take it this year, you'll have to take it next year. You're not ever going to take the English ELA if you passed 11th grade English last year in New York City schools. That's an example of one discipline. This year, because of the Biden administration demanding that all schools in every district give standardized tests as a measurement of where kids are at, that are non-evaluative, non-punitive, not used for any kind of, all they are is a data point. There's zero effect on a kid's ability to graduate or anything else. So that's this, I don't know if everyone knows, that's where we're at. So the kids are going to sit for exams, at least a couple. It has nothing to do with graduation, nothing to do with promotion, nothing to do with admission, depending on what year we're talking about. But that's where we're at. But the Biden administration is demanding that all districts nationwide give standardized tests just to kids. So do what you want with that, but that's where we're at. So it's not going to matter if a kid passes or you don't pass or fail that test, you just take it. So that to me, that has nothing to do with summer. It just has to do with, maybe families might say, oh my God, my kid got a horrible score. It's not going to affect their graduation or anything like that. So
are you saying if a kid like has been doing, like they're passing, everything seems to be fine, but then they tank this, they're not going to try to do anything for them?
I'm saying no one's requiring that because the test has no bearing. Like, of course, kids are not going to do as well on it. They haven't been in buildings to get help with it. Like, I'm not going to dedicate 7 days of instruction to it like I normally would to help kids understand the structure of the test, or 5 days, because I'm not going to take 5 days away of instruction for a test I don't even believe that much in anyway. When I know it has zero effect on anything in their lives other than taking a test because the Biden administration demands the test.
But I didn't think, I thought it was only for third grade to 8th. I didn't realize it's also for high school.
They're saying it's also for high school, but very minimally. It might be English, and you might have to take an English and a math, or we're not quite sure. There's an application in for a waiver from the federal government for all of it, but none of that seems to be gaining any traction. So it's going to be I think the city's approach is going to be whatever number of minimal standardized tests we have to give to meet the standard to get federal funding for a year, because that's what the federal government's doing, is holding funding over everyone's head and saying, if you don't sit for these exams, even though they're completely have zero effect on anything other than getting a measurement, I don't really get what they're thinking. I mean, they're going to get, like Sarah's implying, a measurement of kids being way off and way behind. Maybe that's what they want for some other political purpose or just for a fact. But that's what I've been told where we're at. And that wouldn't have, my point being, it has no effect on the summer program. And oh, you got a 53, you're gonna have to take the summer program. You could if you wanted to, I guess, but that's another question. Can you opt into the summer program if you haven't failed anything? Does anyone know about that?
Yeah, I was looking for that and I don't see it. Well, yes, I do. I'm sorry. For any child who wants to participate, there it is.
Okay. Because if it's mental health programming, that would make sense, right? You can be like, look, I just want to have a community experience this summer because I've been sitting in my room for 10 months or 14 months, whatever the case may be.
Well, I mean, this is fantastic. And I don't know how they're going to, and where and how they're going to do it. So we'll have lots of questions for them when they come in May. So you can get those questions together.
Yeah.
It's, if they can pull this off, it's going to be, fantastic and very, very needed.
Expensive.
And very expensive. I'll be interested to see where the staffing is coming from.
I had colleagues that did it last year, if it's at all similar. Basically, they asked for teachers to sort of volunteer to be part of it, but you are paid. You're not volunteering for free. You're going to get paid. And it's going to be at centers, and it was largely in person last year. So we'll see. And small numbers.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just saying that was last year. I mean, right now, of course, I think we're all seeing in the news how horrifying, like, spikes are starting to happen everywhere. Worldwide, cases are going way up. They're as bad as they were last January. Like, we're nowhere near out of this. And just anecdotally, walking around the city, you just see crowds and crowds of people so close together. I'm very worried, personally.
I'm not worried if people are vaccinated. I think this really has to be our focus, because I don't think behavior is going to change, and I don't think the virus is going to be gone.
Right.
But I do think that, it's just my opinion, and we can take this up in May. It's my opinion this vaccine has to be mandated. Otherwise, we are not going to be back to school in the fall. And we just we can't, it was going to go on forever if we don't make a decision about this as a country. It's not going to move. you know?
That means getting a vaccination for young people, like, children, which is right now not happening yet. I mean, 16 and older, yeah, but not 12, not 10.
That's correct. But if everybody else is vaccinated,
Yeah.
then you've reduced the liability of the 6 through 16-year-old. I think it's really the adults that are at most risk. And if they're all vaccinated, that 7-year-old transmitting the virus is not going to be a threat. And I mean, I feel really strongly about this, especially hearing about yet another suicide this weekend. Hearing stories about things that don't get to suicide that are so awful, with mental health stories of kids who were doing really well, who are not doing well at all. And I'm not talking about academically.
Yeah.
And we are in an absolute crisis. And I'm worried about the high school kids the most, because I think the grade school kids, they would sign up for something in the summer, the parents would sign them up, and they're going to get that mental health support if they are signed up, which is phenomenal. I think once kids get to 7th and 8th grade, they're less likely to want to go. And then you get into, sophomore, junior, senior year, even less likely to get them to a program like this. And Beacon actually just sent out, I was really happy that they did this. I've been leaning on them pretty hard about mental health support there. And they just sent out this wonderful, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but they're going to start a virtual therapy group at the school. And they have hired someone to run it. And it is going to start on Wednesday, April 28th. And it is going to be something, it's a 6-week group, and they can, it's virtual, but anybody who wants to sign up for it, it's free, are going to be able to have this group. And they think that by creating a group, they're hoping that it will be something that catches on with the kids. They get to see each other and talk about something other than Spanish and math. And I really hope it's successful and turns out to be something other schools can do. I have no idea what it costs. I can find out, but I was thrilled to see a school take a step towards helping these kids with mental health issues. So I'll let you know more about that as it launches. But I'm encouraged to see it.
Trish, I completely echo and I completely 1,000, 1,000,000,000% agree with everything you said. Can I just put something on your radar?
Yes.
So just to give you like some history, I've been helping down here restaurants and different people get appointments for vaccination. I've got over 500 now so far. The one thing I have seen, and I want to keep that on your radar, all the other boroughs, not only do they have more sites, but only borough-specific sites. So Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, Staten Island. The only one that never has one is Manhattan. And it's fine, we can travel. But once it comes to the children, so if the Pfizer, they get approval for that 12 to 15-year-old, it's going to be difficult to schlep these kids far to get vaccinated. So something just to get just the Pfizer for Manhattan, like just for Manhattan residents, as they do it in all other boroughs.
So I think they heard parents on that, and Helen was just vaccinated yesterday in the West Village. I mean, I went on, got the appointment. She went. They were there and back in an hour. So I think
correct.
They're starting.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, they're starting to
because
really.
I had to take Aaliyah and a group like an hour and like by JFK Airport because to get like it's just difficult. The Pfizer and now with J&J not coming off, it's going to be more demand on Pfizer. So something just to look at.
I totally agree, and I will make a note of it and do some asking around about that. And I was thrilled to see that it was that easy to get a vaccine. I hope that's the case for all of you with your kids. It was much harder for me, actually. So I was really pleased that went well. Anyway, she's been sort of down today. Like that she got extremely tired. I don't know about the other kids, but she did have some symptoms, but otherwise she feels okay. And yeah, I think as soon as I think that really has to be the myopic focus right now. It's not going to be September unless we have this vaccine mandated. And we have to figure out what to do with teachers that can't have it. You know, there are some teachers that cannot take this vaccine for health reasons, and we got to figure that out too. So think about that. We'll put it on the agenda for May. We're going to have Stephanie and the DOE back to talk more about this initiative here. And then the other thing I want to mention right now, right before Kamal comes on, and I hope he can make it. Is he here yet? I don't see him.
I don't see him on here, but he's wrapping up a meeting that was from 5:30 to 7 p.m. So when he's done with that, he said he's going to join us after.
Okay, great. Well, it's 6:55. So I'll turn to our good news. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Harbor School.
great job.
Oh my gosh. What a
Yay!
amazing, wonderful thing. And I just want to say it's so uplifting when people do the right thing. And it did not look good at all.
That's how it came together.
So I don't know all the details, Wendy, because it was another one of those things. It was just another one of those things where someone had to make a decision to get behind it at a critical juncture. I had heard that there was a problem with 515. And then Nan was able to tell me that it had to be 515 because the pool has to be a minimum of 10 feet deep for diving. I mean, it's an island. The water table is very tricky there. And 515 is one of the highest points on the island, and it could handle the depth. And the engineers had, they've done like 6 walkabouts, but something was up. There was some sort of hesitation. I don't know what it was, whether there was a lease on it, whether they were trying to use it for something else. But there was talk that was starting to happen, exactly the same kind of talk we heard at 346 Broadway, for those of you who were around then, when the city sold our old community board office building. As part of that deal, we were supposed to get a school, and then it turned into, oh, we'll get you space, and then it was a digital center, and then it gets watered down to nothing. And my concern with the ULURP happening there is that it would become part of that bargain, and that it would be watered down by the time they finally agreed on this ULURP, and they would treat it like an amenity. And so I took the awful experience all of us had with those previous ULURPs and those previous promises. And I got, a hold of Margaret Chin and Lorraine Grillo, and I was just like, we have to make this happen. I heard Wendy, I heard you were really active calling, and Nan Richardson, my gosh, the PTA president at the Harbor School she's phenomenal. The way she mobilized those families, that PTA. She had her old CB in Brooklyn, where they all came from. She mobilized them. And we just timed it really well in terms of my call to Gigi. Gigi Lee was phenomenal because Margaret had a meeting with Alicia Glenn, and these conversations were, really just the timing was really important to get right. And Margaret just really got behind this. I mean, I really have to give her so much credit. She really focused on it, and it wasn't easy because she has to deal with that ULURP. And I said, please divorce this from the ULURP. And to do that, she really had to stick her neck out. And I let her know how much, we appreciated it. And Lorraine Grillo, as she was leaving office, really made this a priority for the SCA. They had to wrangle money from the city because they're operating in a deficit, as you can imagine. So it's really hard for them to put that much money aside right now when they're actually in a deficit. But I think everybody at the same time just realized that this was the right thing to do. They settled that island. They were there first. They've been owed this infrastructure for 10 years. They are a victim of their own success. They're busting at the seams. They need classroom space. And frankly, they're one of the only programs of its kind in the nation. We should all be getting behind this program. We have very few of these kind of programs left, and it's so important that we support these trade degrees because they're a dying breed. And my gosh, so many great things have happened since the Harbor School moved there. The Billion Oyster Project. They've really connected with local businesses. They've got tons of support, and really all eyes are on them. And they couldn't even give their certificate of graduation because the kids couldn't swim. So it was the right thing to do. I am thrilled that they did it. And I actually was gobsmacked that they agreed to 400 seats. I mean, I don't even know where they were going to put them. But, and a gym and a pool. And so I'm thrilled. It's a huge youth committee victory. I can't wait to share it at the full board. Thank you all for your feedback on the resolution and for the side conversations you all had wherever you had them. Every single minute of advocacy, I think, could be credited with the success. It was a perfect storm of advocacy on this one, and it just was so uplifting to me that the right thing happened here. They couldn't be more deserving. So now we just have to make sure that the pool, it's going to be really challenging. What's that?
Yeah, remind me what the timing is that they're anticipating that they'll actually have a pool to swim in.
Probably 5 years. You know, it takes a lot of engineering there, and I have been prepared for 5 years. So they have who's doing it all secured, which is actually amazing because this did just come together. But they have their contractors chosen, and I'm told they have, you know, incredible experience in this area. I'm sure they do. It is expensive. And so I don't know if I'm allowed to say how expensive in a public meeting. I'm going to check it out with Tammy. If I can, I'll let you know at the full board. But it's going to be, you know, when I heard the cost, I think it's going to be done really well. And our hope is this pool is going to be big enough that we can have the community use it for meets. So we're pushing for a minimum of 25 meters in length and width, which is regulation. And that's going to be a phenomenal thing for the community. They're floating ideas like having a membership like Stuyvesant does, you know, very low cost, you know, 6-month membership. If people want to do that and swim, I mean, it is a little bit of a hike for people to go to do something like that, but you can go on the weekends. So a lot of ideas are being floated. We are going to follow, of course, the construction really closely to make sure it really suits their needs. And yeah, and then I'm going to get the details on the gym shortly. I'm really hoping it's a full-size gym. And like I said, I should be getting more details on that in about by our next meeting. But
Great.
yeah, next time you see Margaret, just tell her thank you. You know, Lean put a vote in, Gail Brewer's giving money, they all did, and Senator Kavanaugh, everybody really got behind it. And then of course Claire Newman at the trust. You know, everybody had to sort of have an uncomfortable moment on this one, I think. And super grateful to them all. So we'll look forward to that because they really could not afford that temporary solution. We looked into the barges and it was over $1 million. It's really expensive. So yes, and even Dan Squadron, I didn't know he was on the trust on the board, and he even went to bat. So that was nice. And Patrick Cannell. I mean, really, I could go on and on. So very exciting.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great.
It's a good one. Well, I don't see Kamau. I'm wondering if he's just tied up. Should we wait another 5 minutes?
Yeah, just to make sure he knows how to get on, I sent him another email with the access link.
Okay, great. We can wait. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Any new business? Nothing? Bye, Bob. He just signed off. Nobody have anything new to talk about?
No.
I was curious, Andrew, what does sports look like in your world?
So we're off and running. We had our first weekend of games on Saturday.
Congratulations, Andrew.
Thank you. We do have a pretty tight COVID protocol that fortunately most families are accustomed to. So we're able to navigate that and still run a pretty tight schedule. We will have again almost 1,100 kids, which is down from over 1,200 that signed up last year. So we were expecting a bigger impact than what we're actually seeing, which I think is just indicative of families really wanting organized activities for their kids to be involved with, particularly outdoor activities. So knock on wood, we'll be able to manage through the chaos of COVID and get through a full season. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's a huge accomplishment. Huge. And thank you.
It's a community effort, a lot of people involved.
I saw them. I actually was driving. I did a college week tour weekend, drive by, we call them now, not tours. And I came back and I was up on Pier 40 parking and I looked down and the field was full of kids and it just made me so happy. It's so good for them.
Lots of smiles, which was great to see.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the organization of that in COVID is really arduous. So a big thank you to you, and please pass it along to all the others. It's given a lot of kids something to hope for. Helen was up at Central Park today running track, and she just, it just changes them. It's just so good for them to get outside and run around.
I have to say, I definitely have a newfound appreciation, not that I didn't, but for what schools are going through. As big a challenge as we expected the organization to be, it's 3 times harder than we anticipated because the goalposts just keep moving.
Yeah. I can imagine. You have to keep adjusting. It's really hard. Well, one day at a time.
My daughter, my 16-year-old, 17-year-old daughter got her first shot today.
Right on.
Yep.
Where did she go, Jeff?
She goes to lab
No, I mean, where'd she get the shot?
at Tisch, the big hospital up on First Ave. I think she could have gotten it down here. I got mine down here at NYU Langone at Trinity.
That's good. Those are 2 Manhattan locations, Sarah. I mean, something good is happening here.
No, there's plenty of Manhattan location. There isn't just any that are just specific for Manhattan residents.
Oh,
Like
I see what you're saying.
All
Okay.
the other boroughs have a couple of them only for Bronx residents. They can only go there. They're the only ones. So that's what I'm talking about, like things just specifically.
Fantastic.
And by the way, have you heard anything at all about kindergarten enrollment? Is it true that it's really down by 15%? Have you heard anything?
Well, in our community district. So it's very different at different schools. And we have been particularly impacted here. So, and it's for a myriad of reasons, obviously people had the ability to leave. Some families enrolled their kids in other places. So you know, we don't have all the data on why they left, but they don't, I'm hearing there's still a deficit for the fall as of right now. People have optioned it, but I don't think it's going to be the fall. If you had to ask me, I think we still have some time that before things will get back to normal. I don't think it, unless something important, I think that it would give people a lot of confidence if the DOE announced that 100% were back in school and that vaccines were mandated, and we have a plan for the teachers that can't get vaccinated.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think we need a mayor who just, you know,
A mayor, just a mayor. I will just say a mayor, period. Just a mayor. Yeah, no, I
fairly, the mandate has to come from the state. That's the governor. So, you know, that's who mandates hepatitis. Your kids can't go to school without a vaccine for all those other diseases. And yes, it's early in the stage here, but I think we're not going to get anywhere unless we can get everybody back to school. So
yeah, I know quite a few people that moved their kids to private, because I was surprised that the private schools already said that they're going to be, and I said I wouldn't believe them, but they said they're going to be back 100% in the fall, and people just, you know, desperate and said yes, okay, and they went. But you're right, we won't know for a while.
no, I mean, I know 3 people that left and went to boarding school, and they're all at boarding school, and I'm like, well, how does that work? And they make it work. You know, they just have, if someone has COVID, they quarantine them, they find the places to put them. And it's just like the colleges. You
They
know,
don't let you go home.
they don't let you go home.
It's
They
pretty
put
brutal. I've got a student who just wrote to me, and she's like hasn't been home in forever.
Yeah, you have to go to basically a dorm by yourself for 2 weeks. But I mean, they are making it work, and those kids still felt like it was worthwhile being there. They were happy to see friends and be at school. So, you know, it'll be a great example actually for the cities to look at how some of these colleges and private schools are handling it, so that they can then mitigate the risk and make some important decisions. And I mean, obviously, public schools have such a bigger class size and way more kids in the building. It's definitely a much more serious consideration than a private school with 12 kids in the class. So it isn't apples and apples. I don't want to come across as being, you know, flippant in any way about it. I think it is important, though, that we really have some leadership on this and some decisiveness. You know, it affects everything. It affects the economy. If the kids can't go back, the parents can't work. It's bad for their mental health. I mean, we have so many issues. So we'll gather steam for, you know, a larger discussion on that in a May, and then maybe we'll ask Kamau to come in May, because I still don't see him, Jen, at 7:13. Have you heard from him?
I haven't trying to get it a hold of him.
I'm good with that. Just for the record, I don't know if others want to weigh in.
What did you say, Jeff?
I said if others want to weigh in as well, I'm good with that. I'd rather not sit here. I've got a lot to do, and I'd rather not sit here waiting for someone to show up.
Can I ask you, Jen, it was what he was talking about time sensitive? Can it wait a month? Is it okay?
I believe so. He pretty much wanted to come in to present the Black Gotham experience and sort of explore potential potential ideas and how to implement the curriculum that they developed, and bring that to the schools.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's do this. Can you just have him connect with me? And I'll have a phone conversation with him, and we'll go ahead and put him on in May. And if he needs some help with something in the meantime, we can just work between meetings. How's that?
I can't imagine there's anything time sensitive. If this is is it the Black Caucus? Is that, what is it?
Yes.
Yeah. They presented, I think, at Waterfront and Parks or some committee, and I had proposed they come before Youth and Ed. It's, for me, it's more informational. There may be something that comes out of it in terms of connecting them with schools, but nothing that was urgent or time sensitive.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Thanks, Andrew. All right, good. Well, let's put them on May then, Jen. And we'll go ahead and wrap up for the day.
Good to see you all.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll let him know.
Nice work on Governor's Island on Harbor School, Tricia. Way to go.
So thank you to everybody. Really, it was a village, and I just couldn't be happier. I'm just
But it's good
thrilled.
to have you as a leader. And also, Andrew, thank you to you and all the people making Little League happen.
Yeah.
Get something back looking like normal for our kids and families. So way to go.
Thank you.
Really great. All right, guys. We'll see you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, thanks.
Bye, all.
Toodles. Bye, Taylin.